When men, women and children are condemned to live in extreme cases of poverty, our human rights are violated. That's why we must ensure we come together on this day to make sure that these rights are respected.
Tá sé do bhúlgus salúnta oringe, a cheacht an áil a chéile de cinú go dubtar na cearta sin dóibh. What does poverty mean to me? Well, I'm thinking of two streets close by. One is called Mare Street, and if you happen to be born into an apartment there, you'll have a different story and a different life and different expectations than if you were born about 200 metres back parallel, which is called Sheriff Street. Somewhere between those two streets is the definition of poverty, and I think the best people to ask would be the people who speak here on October the 17th, year in, year out.
Sunday night, I'm walking down Grafton Street. I can hear the songs of the buskers and the banging of their feet on Grafton Street.
Poverty is a limitation of choices. Your choices are limited. You may live in an overcrowded house in an area where there's a lot of drugs, and you don't want your children growing up there, but nothing you can do about it.
The experts in poverty are not the people doing statistics in Trinity College or the politicians or the media commentators, but people who struggle.
I've lived with poverty all my life, so I don't know no difference. You know, like it's just poverty, and that's that, you know.
I know that in some of those situations I couldn't have coped. I didn't have the courage, I wouldn't have had the resilience, and I wouldn't have had the skill.
So you live in a society of two worlds. I'd say you cannot understand poverty unless you first of all understand wealth.
So the poverty is exactly like wealth. It's passed on from one generation to another.
If you have wealth, you can get on the phone to decision makers, political and economic decision makers. You play golf with them, you go to dinner with them. So you have an influence in the decisions that are made in our society. And you have choices. You can choose where you want to live, you can choose where you want to go on holidays, you can choose what school you want your kids to go to, and you have status. Poverty is the exact opposite.
Here's one for you. It's more likely that a poor man will become rich than it is that a rich man will become poor. That's one to think about.
I reflect on poverty as being about, it's obviously about money, but it's also about being marginalised from a lot of the mainstream opportunities in life.
It's crazy to have to live it all, you know, like it's not nice. Like I do actually feel people looking at me because you can't even afford a haircut.
There's a smell of perfume and a smell of hash, a smell of poverty and a smell of cash on Grafton Street. It looks so rich and it looks so poor. For some it's heaven and for some it's a sore. It's Grafton Street. It's Grafton Street.
I think it's important because people should be taking part of it. Not even if you are rich or if you're poor, it doesn't matter who you are. Just come along to October 17 because I always guarantee to learn something new and how to build up confidence, how to stand up and not to discriminate people that are in poverty. That's basically what it is.
We always go to the October 17th.
As long as I live, I'll always remember that day because it was such a relief and happy day for me.
Because it's close to us, like we've been in poverty, and when we go to that we feel involved for that one day and you leave on a kind of a high.
It was a amazing experience. I loved it. I felt that I had a voice for me.
I was angry with the world and I had nowhere to put my voice. No one was listening. Or I didn't think anyone was listening.
We all come together and we speak up and we give a voice to the voiceless, basically. And we hope one day that it will be heard.
I think a lot of people probably think, oh, poverty, that doesn't happen to me, so it doesn't affect me.
Yeah. Somehow there's an idea that people in poverty are different from the rest of us.
It's so easy sometimes for people to do this us and them because it's almost too difficult for people to hear the hardships that people go through. It's like people want to block off that side. But you can't ignore that when you walk down the road and see homeless people. If you have any empathy, I don't know how you can ignore this massive, massive inequality in our city, in our country and worldwide.
I had enough sense to know that all human beings are the same. We've all got the same needs. We've all got the same hopes. You know, people in low income have hopes for their family, their children. We've also got the same capacity to love, to work, you know, to make a contribution. But people in poverty don't get the chance, actually, to develop that potential.
All the decision makers in our society are in the first category. They are people who are in very good, well-paid jobs, permanent, pensionable, living in nice houses, living in nice areas of the city, children going to third-level education. They live in that world, and they have no understanding or appreciation of the world that other people have to live in, and therefore the decisions they make are decisions that are not favourable very often to the people who are living in poverty.
It was 2016 when the President came and respectfully listened to these stories. People who maybe have had no voice. When the President addresses your story, you feel not alone does my story matter, but I matter.
The testimonies are the core part of it. And I think it's fantastic to have real people telling real stories. It's not an actor, it's the real people. And it's great to listen to it. It's great to hear it. It moves you. And I think it's great for the people themselves to stand up and say, this happened to me. But I'm here now, I want to tell my story and I want to kind of help change things. It's a very positive experience every year.
I've actually had a chance to speak at two of them. I gave 2 testimonials, which was very empowering to myself and to others, like from getting the opportunity to speak.
It represents, for me, loads of people come together because they're sick of what's happening, that their voices aren't being met.
It's helped me realise that I have a voice, and it's about time that I use it and hopefully somebody hears it.
The most important people that are there is the voice of the people giving the testimony, and they're people whose voices were probably never heard before.
Feeling heard, maybe for the first time, is actually maybe the start of a journey that will lead on to better things in people's lives, in terms of maybe gaining the confidence to go back to study, gain the confidence to look for support for certain issues in their lives.
The way I was given an opportunity, I've seen since then other people given an opportunity, and I've seen them seize it. And I know people who have spoke since I have spoken, and they've gone on to great things. And that was because it gives you a confidence, a self-belief. You see others believing in you. That changes something more in you.
Feeling heard, telling your genuine, honest, authentic experience and story is very powerful for both sides, the people listening and the people telling.
And I think that's what inspires people every year that October's out there, to have a voice and be heard. Don't shut the door and answer the question.
I'll always remember your kind words. I still remember your name. But I see you twisting and turning, and I know these things won't be the same.
The real heroes, they're anonymous. They may be grannies and granddads, people in struggling families that keep on going. The likes of Luke Kelly that comes from this community has encouraged everybody in the community to say, we have something valuable.
And we think people experiencing poverty have a wisdom that we need to get.
These people have such a knowledge and such a street smartness that people from more privileged backgrounds and areas will never have, or almost choose to never know.
I don't usually speak out. I'm known as a quiet person, so but I feel this is important. It give encouragement for other people to speak out.
You used to turn around to me and said, now, would you speak at October 17th? I would. Outright, I would say yeah. But I wouldn't have in the past. Where in hell can you go? Far from the things that you know.
If something is not evident, it's not noticed. And getting people down together on the 17th of October and there does draw attention to this group that works in solidarity with others.
Poverty isn't just the 17th of October. It's the 1st of January until the end of December.
Poverty be very hidden within communities, you know. There's a lot of stigma that comes with poverty.
I thought the stigma of poverty would have been broken already, you know.
Just because you don't have money, it doesn't mean you can't be rich in so many other areas.
The 17th of October is not just about reminding us that poverty still exists and we need to address it, but it's about empowering people.
The effects it has on me anyway is physical and mental.
The opposite of shame happens here.
The embarrassment came from not having all he's wanting, you know, and probably standing there on an empty stomach too, yeah.
Is that what you see? Motherland, cradle me.
I have a picture like of a pond, and if you throw a rock in, there's going to be ripples. So.
On the 17th of October, nobody is there just for a laugh, nobody is there out of curiosity, nobody is there just to get that photograph taken or whatever. People show up there because they're committed to the idea. And when you get kind of people who are committed to the idea and they manifest it as best they can, that ripples, the effect of that ripples out. So
it's not just a day, there's the whole build up to it. So there's a process where someone probably gets comfortable to the point where they want to talk, you know. And even there's people that never spoke on the 17th of October, but they spoke in the process of getting to the 17th of October, and they're having the ripple effect on their family. It would be little small ripples, only tiny little ripples, but they can be built upon.
Hopefully that other people who aren't there physically will still connect with what's happening there by reading about it in the newspaper, listening to it on a radio program, and that it will also prompt people like me and others to kind of try and bring into our daily work more reflection on these issues.
So that day was like a milestone for me because I was able to voice out for other women and to share my experience. And all these years I've been living in that repression. Sometimes when we read articles about asylum seekers, I think people have wrong impression about us. So speaking out means we need to let people in our community know we are here to put impact to Highland, to the community, and to let us know that whatever they are thinking about us is not who we are.
Validation doesn't come necessarily from the political figures. It comes from people who have struggled and know exactly what you're saying when you say, I'm living in direct provision, I'm struggling with stuff in my life, I'm unable to read. No matter what your story is, I think you get fantastic validation from other people sitting around listening.
I found myself at the Poverty Storm talking on a platform about these issues. And since then I've gone and I've spoken in Parliament, I've spoken whatever. So that's what that is.
It's a worldwide national day. You know, so it's a day where everyone comes together, you know, and poverty is really taken serious on that day.
Yeah, getting your voice heard is a powerful thing.
To speak in public, which is one of the hardest things you can ask anyone to do, and sometimes this is the first time people have done it. So it's a very brave step for people to do that.
For someone to stand up for them, it's a huge thing. It needs to be more than that. The collective needs to be, this is important. Why have we got so much poverty when 30% of the food produced in the world is wasted? It's systems that need to be changed. And we have the technology so that everybody can be well fed, everybody can be educated, everybody can have shelter and food, and yet we don't.
Now, the system should be more person-centred, more service user-centred. And that would be a great benefit to many people who come from less well-off backgrounds, which is maybe those backgrounds have impaired their learning and their educational progress and their confidence.
Started ATD by myself, and when I got married, she got on board. She stood up and she spoke. It was brilliant. I was so proud of her. Still am.
I've laid down the footsteps for my kids to follow, and I'll continue to do so. As a mother, I will do anything in my power to make sure my kids' rights are heard, because unfortunately poverty will still exist and still exists
Last year we had footprints, that's a stone. People had written their wishes for a better world or end of poverty on the footprints. We asked classrooms around Ireland to do that. In your own classroom, bit of paper, draw out a footprint, you have a chat about poverty, then kids wrote in little things themselves and they put them on the floor in the classroom or on the way in the hall, or they put them up on the website in the school. That's the sort of link we want to link in with from Global Citizenship School to the October 17 committee. But the key is actually real people telling real stories.
We need to go back to remember that we are each human being, and that we kind of need to go back to the basic of treating people the way we want to be treated ourselves.
A person's story, whether it's told virtually through media or whether it's told in person, is still a person's story. And that story has the power to change them, but more importantly, maybe wherever this video is picked up.
I'm gonna clear out my head. I'm gonna get myself straight.
People's rights are being neglected. It's the responsibility on all of us to stand up together.
Leave no one behind is a big theme in ATD, and I've seen them, I've seen that come to life, I've witnessed it
Everyone's life matters equally, no matter where you're from, who you are, what your background is.
It doesn't matter who you are, you could be in a wheelchair, you could have a disability, you could be anybody.
I think it's something close to all our hearts and souls.
The Women in the South Project, I know the difference it makes to them.
We are the South Sisters, yeah! Women's Community Project in the north inner city of Dublin, and we are quite proud here today to do a few songs for you in support of October 17 with ATD in Dublin.
Sometimes all it takes is the right word in the right place to give somebody a huge boost.
And to remember the power of the story.
It's myself and the other people that turn up on the 17th of October that actually probably do make the difference, and actually probably do throw out 10 seeds and one of them might be someone, yeah?
Because I heard someone speak and I read other people's testimony and I recognised some of the names and some of the faces of people that spoke before me. And I says, I know them. I know what they were before. Look at them.
There's always someone new that gives a testimony. But when it came to my turn in 2010, I was inspired by half the people that done it before.
It's all about people empowerment, everybody has just something to bring to the table. Doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, you'll always have something to add. The world has a crazy way of overlooking people, but we can all learn. Knowledge is knowledge, we can all learn. Iron sharpens iron, we can all learn from each other. And I've learned a lot from a lot of people here. And I hope a lot of people have learned a lot from me as well.
When I think about me, where I've come from, I've spoken many places, but the one place I'm speaking now, and that's the chance to make an impact. That's the power of the 17th of October for me. Because without it, the knock-on effect wouldn't have happened.
We are not alone. There are other people that go through some other difficulties in life.
We're all looking and hope for the same thing.
If you want to be heard, speak. Don't be afraid that people aren't going to listen to you or people are going to put you down for what you say. Stand up for what you believe in. Not only for you, but for future generations.